Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar, Investigation into Counterfeits with Eaton. I'm your host, Timothy Johnson. I'm the digital editor for Electrical Contractor magazine. Before we get started, I need to go over some housekeeping items. The audio for today's presentation should be coming through your computer speakers or headphones. If you prefer to call in, there's a toll-free number in the event info panel. If you have other difficulties, please reach out to me using the chat window. Also, please note that today's presentation is being recorded, so if you miss anything or something comes up and you have to leave, you can come back at your convenience. Finally, there will be time for Q&A after the presentation. You can submit questions through the Q&A box or comments in the chat box. If you're having trouble finding those features, hover your mouse at the top of your screen. A control panel will drop down and you should see those options there. Now on with the show. Our presenters today are Erica Healy and Tom Grace. Erica holds a BS degree in Manufacturing Engineering Technology from Purdue University. While at Purdue, she came up through Eaton's summer internship program and started her full-time career through Eaton's Technical Sales Leadership Development Program in 2014. In 2016, she took on the role of Distributor Sales Representative. In 2018, she became Marketing Specialist, where she works in the Gulf region to ensure distributors understand the dangers of purchasing from unauthorized resellers and sets them up with competitive pricing, marketing, and promotional campaigns, as well as training and education for workplace personnel. She also works with contractors in the area to ensure they are purchasing product from only authorized resellers. Tom Grace has more than 22 years of experience in Eaton's electrical business, focusing for more than 10 of those years on the impact of counterfeiting on Eaton and the electrical industry. As Brand Protection Manager for Eaton's Electrical Sector Americas, he has undertaken the global coordination for brand protection and continues to promote counterfeit awareness, product enhancement, and policy enforcement through Eaton's electrical sectors in the Americas, EMEA, and APAC. To raise the awareness of risks of counterfeit electrical products, Tom frequently collaborates with industry associations such as UL, the CSA, NEMA, the NAAD, ESFI, and the Professional Apparatus Recyclers League. Tom holds a BS degree from the University of South Florida. On behalf of Electrical Contractor magazine, I want to thank all of you for attending. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Erica Healy to get started. Erica?
Thanks, Tim. Today, we will learn how you can identify counterfeit and suspect products and what manufacturers are doing to stop all of this. You'll also learn how to quickly identify at-risk and suspect packaging and products. You'll learn what technology is being leveraged today to make counterfeiting more difficult, as well as digital tools that are available to you to assist in the field for identifying and mitigating your risk. Our agenda today is, first we'll let you know that this is an industry-wide issue. We want to go over the financial impact that counterfeit products is having globally and in the U.S. We'll define the gray market and counterfeiting. We'll help you understand how you can detect counterfeiting products from the packaging, labeling, and authentication tools. We'll let you know about programs that are available to help mitigate your risk, and we'll end with a call to action. So to begin, we want to make it very clear that counterfeiting is an industry that's well known to affect every brand, and so it's not just the electrical industry, it's not just Eaton. Counterfeiting plagues all industries. The purpose of this presentation is to bring awareness to what counterfeit products are and to let you know that they create serious risks regarding safety and they're negatively affecting our economy. All well-known brands have been affected, and a coordinated industry effort is required from all of us, from manufacturers, from distributors, and from contractors to mitigate the impact of counterfeiting in our industry. Now, I will go through the financial impact that counterfeiting is having globally and in the U.S. Counterfeiting is responsible for about $1.77 trillion worldwide, and so this is not specific to any industry. This is across all industries, but in the U.S. alone, 1.2 billion of seizures have been taken, and the amount of individual seizures is 34,143. 80% of which originate from China. And in the past 8 years, the value of this counterfeit problem has gone up 538%. So this business is growing at an alarming rate. And I'd ask everyone on the phone, how many people have experienced such growth of 538% growth in the past 8 years? This results in a negative job loss of 750,000 jobs in the U.S. every single year, and also 16,400 non-home structure fires are caused by electrical failure, some of which can be attributed to this counterfeiting problem. Now we'll take you through the definitions of what we're going to be talking about today. We'd like to familiarize yourselves with the gray market, which is really any unintended resale of genuine products outside of the channel intended by the original manufacturer. So products sourced by a variety of methods and sold as new, but without a manufacturing relationship, support, and warranty would be categorized under the gray market. These gray market goods may be new, but they're acquired from means outside of the authorized channel, and so that's what voids it from being a new and warranty-backed authorized product. The gray market resellers and brokers are frequently misrepresenting surplus, used, and refurbished goods as new, genuine product. So a big problem with the gray market is that they're misrepresenting product and passing it off as new. And because of their sourcing practices, it's very questionable, they're at the highest risk for obtaining and passing along counterfeit, substandard, and fraudulent goods due to their sourcing practices. The definition of a counterfeit is a confirmed imitation intended to be passed off fraudulently or deceptively as a new, genuine product. Counterfeits, they might be newly manufactured fake products, or they might be products that are refurbished with counterfeit parts and packaging and labeling. Counterfeit electrical products may be unsafe and pose a risk to channel partners, contractors, and end users. And gray market resellers tend to be the channel that holds the counterfeit products knowingly or unknowingly just because of the way that they're sourcing them through unauthorized means. Finally, our next definition is reconditioned product. Reconditioned products are products that are restored to some good condition by repair or replacement of parts. The reconditioned products are not new, but they are used parts that have been repaired to some good condition. So it's important for you to know, if you are getting a reconditioned product, that your vendor is honest with you about that and that product isn't being misrepresented as new. Reconditioning of molded case circuit breakers is limited. Many MCCBs are factory sealed and cannot be reconditioned. So if they're telling you that a breaker is reconditioned, that's grounds for questioning and wondering why. Any unauthorized modification may render the breaker incapable of performing its intended functions and may also jeopardize the manufacturer's warranty. And this comes from a standard that you're very familiar with on the call, NEMA AB4. And now I will pass the call along to Tom, who will take you through how you can actually spot counterfeit products.
Thanks, Erica. Yeah, Tom Grace. This is one of the first times we've tried to do what to look for, how to spot a counterfeit. All the examples you're getting ready to see are products that we've found in the field, or we're using genuine samples that we've sourced here at Eaton from our manufacturing plants. You're going to see a variety of different features, and I hope you can get a better understanding of how we can use these marks or this tampering, these features to identify our suspect or counterfeit product. So I'd like to start first with the first thing we see typically is the packaging displayed on the screen now, and I've chosen to represent the Legacy brand, which a lot of folks might know as by Cutler Hammer. Again, a legacy trademark. Eaton goes to market today with the Eaton and probably Cutler Hammer series breakers, but a lot of folks will be familiar with the black and red branding, traditional label. Some key things on the label we see, the catalog number is represented, some key features of the product like the current ratings, the temperature rise, number of poles. And then we see some other features here and information that we see a style number, some references to the UPC number, and very importantly, the date code is on the carton label. And I'm going to point that out in a number of times as we go through the presentation today. But the date codes become very important when you're understanding if you're actually purchasing new products. So in the Cutler Hammer example that we see here, 11/01/31 would be November 1st, 2011, January 31st for the date code. On the left is an example of the new branding. This branding was adopted during a 2011-2012 time frame, so we've transitioned from the black and red Cutler Hammer series to the Eaton Powering Business Worldwide labels. But again, the same key information, the label has a similar dimension, and the same information is presented as well as the date code. An important feature of the new product is one, the carton label now is branded with the Eaton logos, and the label itself has actually been watermarked with an Eaton logo as a security measure, as a first line of defense against counterfeit labels. So you can look for that watermark within the Eaton label now. Two examples that I have from, again, all of these examples you're going to see here that are counterfeit and gray market have been received from the gray market, have been either sourced from eBay or from an investigative purchase that I've made, or even returned by distributors who have taken in contractor materials. So on the left, we see a gray market breaker, but we see some evidence of tampering. You can see the genuine Eaton label. You can see to some degree the Eaton logo as a watermark on the label, but we can see here that somebody has purposely removed the style number and the date code. Now on the right, the label appears to be a Cutler Hammer label, a genuine label, but in fact it was actually a counterfeit label, and clearly the the reseller tampered with the label to remove the date codes and style numbers, not even realizing that they themselves were handling a counterfeit product. So again, the style numbers, but most importantly the date codes should appear on these labels. You can see they've been purposely tampered. This is the first indication that you have a suspect product. You're not necessarily going to be able to trust what's inside the carton. This is an actual image taken from eBay. I usually get some chuckles when I present this image. This lot of breakers was presented as new. And if you take a look yourselves, you can see label tampering, date codes removed, a mixture of products here. We see some things that have French labels, meaning it likely came from Canada. We see that repeated here. We see various levels of tampering. We see the barcodes and the date codes removed on some labels. Some of it's surgically removed. Others we see where the carton label has just been altered enough to remove the date code, so maybe a solvent was used. But in many cases here, you would not be able to determine the age of the breaker, the date codes, or even use the proper UPC codes because the cartons have been altered. These are the products that a gray market, an independent reseller, somebody outside of the authorized distribution chain would remarket to you as new. So once we take the carton or the breaker out of the carton, we're going to see some features as well. So we'll start with the image in the middle. We see an Eaton, the 2-pole molded case circuit breaker. We can see the Eaton branding. We can see the label applied, includes information that's required for the UL certification that gets applied to the product. So again, we have the amperage, we have the temperature rise, we have a catalog number, style number, Again, we're going to talk about that date code because you can use that date code that was on the carton label and the date code that's on the front of the breaker, one to verify the age, but also as part of your method for determining if it's a suspect or counterfeit product. In the case of multi-case breakers today, we also have a serial number that's applied to the breakers and a label that's a barcode. You may have additional product information. In this case, it's a two-pole breaker, so it's applied to the side of the breaker. In many cases, it's applied to the front. And you're also starting to see some of our new technology that we've been rolling out. So on the breaker, we've laser marked the serial number directly onto the product itself. And I'm not sure if many of you have seen this yet, but this is new and upcoming. It's an update to our G family of breakers that traditionally had just been a black breaker with a small adhesive label on the side that referred to the part numbers and the style numbers and other key information and date codes. We're going to move towards a laser marking the complete breaker with all the key information, including the Eaton brand, your UL and CSA certifications, the catalog number, and all the key ratings that are applied to the UL mark and for you to apply it in the field, and even a QR code that you can follow up on the Eaton.com website for additional information about those products, including authentication. We'd like to look a little bit closer at some of these labels because, key to manufacturing, key to controlling the Eaton quality of our products is the serialization of our products within the factory. So the serial number, gets applied to a circuit breaker. In this case, our breakers that are manufactured in our Dominican Republic plants between 10 and 400 amps at the time that the breaker is born. So that serial number lives with it completely through the time of manufacturing, up to the point where it finally ships to the customer. In addition to the serialization, again, traditionally just been applied as an adhesive label. Eaton's moving now more towards permanent technologies and more dynamic marking of our products, and you'll see laser marking now, marking some of that key product information that you relied on the adhesive labels in the past, including the date code. And then again, the serial number repeated in a barcode fashion. Look for more of that to even translate into a QR code that will, again, help you in the field, scanning the breakers and providing product information that you find necessary, like instruction manuals, time current curves, installation manuals, things that are important to you as you support Eaton products in the field. The next part of nameplates is we also have nameplates on the back of the breaker. So what I've tried to represent here is a sort of a transition. So we have this history. We have a date code on the back, 13/10/22, so 2013, October 22nd. We have the country of origin label assembled in the Dominican Republic applied to the back of the breaker, and that's how we've pretty much gone to market until about 2015. You can see here the breaker includes the date codes, the country of origin label, but now we've started laser marking that date code. This was in 2014, so this is one of the early prototypes. And then in 2017, you can see we've actually transitioned to just laser marking those date codes onto the back of the breakers. Again, applying the assembled in the Dominican Republic, that country of origin label. But you can see more use of the laser marker, the permanent marking of the information, but most importantly, these date codes that are applied to the back of the breakers. So let's take a look at suspect breakers, counterfeit breakers. The one on the left breaker here, we see nameplates that are applied, and these nameplates look similar, but they lack the luster of a genuine label, but they also reveal some other information about the counterfeiting that's taking place here. And I've chosen to kind of zoom in on this particular space where it shows the product information. Here we see an equal sign represented as in part of the text here. So, this is a common area of spotting counterfeit or suspect products, is the errors and the misspellings and additional features that get added when they attempt to counterfeit the products. We also find that this is a simulation. The counterfeit product only has to be good enough to get passed off and sold. It's up to the contractor or the customer to understand the risks and verify that they have a genuine product. And in this case, we see that they're using some type of inkjet technology to recreate some of these labels, and you can visually see some of the bleed, not in this particular breaker, but you can see the visual, the bleed from the inkjet around some of the text that's been applied to this type of label. So if you see any kind of unusual quality when it comes to the labeling or marking on an Eaton breaker, or really any brand breaker, that should be an area for concern as well. So then let's go back and look at those the nameplates. And I mentioned the serial numbers before. We can see the counterfeit breaker on the left. It does indeed have a serial number, but you can see it doesn't really follow that the format that the Eaton label had. It's not clear. It really doesn't appear to be much of a barcode. That is a Chinese knockoff that we did have tested. That's a test label that was applied by us as we were testing the product, and you can certainly see the NTs, meaning that we had no trip during those tests that were performed on that breaker. The other hand is a breaker where the serial number has been removed, so it appears to be a genuine breaker, but the barcode's been removed. The serial number has been removed. That serial number is the key to understanding the quality of the product and verifying its authenticity. It's frequently removed in the gray market, again, to disguise the origin of the product, potentially the age of the product, and we can confirm that it's from the gray market by this extraneous label, which advises that we would void the warranty should we remove that label. When we look at the back of that breaker, again, the counterfeit breaker, we see a date code, but it's been applied on a label with some type of temperature or thermal type printing process, and over time, that number is fading. By UL, by standards, we have to have markings that remain permanent through the life of that product. But you can see again no country of origin markings, and of course no laser marking here on the back of the counterfeit product. So I showed you a moment ago the tampered breaker, the one without the barcode that has evidence that it's come from the gray market through a warranty seal. And I wanted to share some of those seals that we've seen in the past. My personal favorite is the donkey, broken seal, voids warranty. And I'm not sure if you can look close to, you can see that breaker was also wrapped in saran wrap or shrink wrapped. So both of those cases, we don't put an ass on our factory seal, and we don't shrink wrap our circuit breakers. So that would be an indication that it came from the gray market, or reason for you to question the origin of that product and hopefully return or reject that should somebody try to pass that off. These marks aren't, the warranty void if removed labels are not limited to molded case breakers. We see them occurring on all types of breakers. So I've showed a bolt-on breaker here with a warranty void if removed. Again, with some barcode trying to make it look official, but again, it's not. It's really just a mark of the reseller. And then here again, you see a transition from some point in time when one of the more common breaker brokers was actually putting their name onto the label to today, where they just choose to hide behind a barcode. But again, any instance where we see these labels applied to a product guarantees that it came from the gray market and contributes to the risk that you're getting a counterfeit or suspect product. So with that primer being done there, let's see if you can pass the test and spot the counterfeit product. So again, what you're going to see are actual examples of products presented from customers, and I'm letting you, today, see if you can pass the test. So in this example, we see 5 Eaton molded case circuit breakers presented to a customer from, again, a reseller that did not have a relationship with the original manufacturer. In fact, they had themselves not a relationship, so they had to go outside and purchase these products. You can see the breakers look pretty consistent. They all seem to have the same branding on the front. But you can start to see a little bit of the bleed on the text, and then you can notice that none of these breakers have a date code on the front. Look at the packaging. Again, it looks like the Eaton Powering Business Worldwide labeling that was adopted in 2011. But as we look closer, we're missing some information. We're starting to miss the style numbers. We're missing date codes. We're missing key information that could help you determine if these were genuine or not. We're also seeing a mixture in the packaging here too. We see some branded packages and then some unbranded packages. So you might have some reason to be concerned about these breakers. And I think if you keep going here, we're going to turn those breakers around. And hopefully what you learned today was that the date codes on the back, the information that's on these labels, on the date codes on the carton label, the date code that's on the nameplate of the product, and most certainly the date code that's on the back when we start manufacturing should tell you a lot about these products. And I've helped you see or read the date codes that are applied, but the date codes here varied from 1985 until 2016. So in 1985, and we'll look at the other breaker, 1991, Westinghouse DCBU business unit was still operating as Westinghouse DCBU. Eaton had not completed that purchase until 1994. So those two breakers would never have had an Eaton Cutler Hammer nameplate on the front of the breaker. So right away we know those two breakers are counterfeit. 2006, likely to have that branding. That's the Eaton Cutler Hammer branding. We were transitioning from the Cutler Hammer as our family brand to be more of a series. And then in 2014, 2016, those breakers would have had just an Eaton trademark on the front on the nameplates. So those two were actually changed from the current brand to this legacy brand, all in the attempt to pass all 5 of these breakers off as new or genuine, even though their original ratings and construction is unknown. As we look closer, though, at these 5 particular breakers, and I said spot the counterfeit, so they're all counterfeit, but the most heinous one is probably the breaker that had 1985 on the back. So I'm going to look real close at this one. So I gave you show you the nameplate. You can see that ink bleed, around the numbering. There's no date code on the front. We can see it doesn't have a barcode, no serial number on the side. But I do see some laser marking here. But the laser marking is only on the cover. There's none on the base. So when we laser mark our products, it marks the base and the cover together. So this tells me that that base and that cover were not manufactured by Eaton together. And then when we look closely at the fit and finish of this, we can actually see a pretty significant gap between the cover and the base of these products. Sorry about that. As we look closer then at the base, we actually find out that this base is not manufactured by Eaton. This is some type of clone, copy, knockoff, whatever term you use. This was not manufactured by Eaton. It is a look-alike. None of the live parts that are on this breaker were manufactured to any Eaton specification. They were not manufactured in an Eaton plant. They were manufactured in some unknown location of unknown quality, not tested, and did not perform the way they should be, the way they should have been intended. So this product itself was some type of Chinese knockoff that somebody applied Eaton cover to, mix and match some parts to pass these off to a customer. So this is the worst case scenario, and this is what we're trying to give you that warning for how to spot these counterfeits, how to spot suspect product. But the key thing here, they came from the gray market. That is your main source and supply for suspect and counterfeit materials. So again, how did the products get into our markets? I started alluding to it right now is the gray market. So just to kind of visualize that, this customer was reached out to a reseller who did not have a relationship with Eaton, did not have access to purchase genuine products. They relied on the open market and another unknown resource to purchase the products. And part of that purchase found themselves buying these counterfeit products. The easiest way to protect yourself from this type of scenario is to work with your authorized distribution channel, the manufacturer's authorized resellers. And you can see here that if a customer does this, the authorized distributor or reseller is pretty much guaranteed of sourcing a product directly from the manufacturer, mitigating your risk to suspect counterfeit products with unknown origins, and again, safety that goes along with the application of circuit breakers is protected. I'm going to hand this now back to Erica to talk about some of the tools and programs that we've done to reduce your risk of suspect and counterfeit breakers, and how you might be able to apply those.
Thanks, Tom. We would like to encourage everyone to always refer to the original manufacturer's websites regarding authentic product for that manufacturer, and also find authorized distributors where you can purchase them from, as Tom just introduced you to. A couple websites we have at Eaton around this topic is eaton.com/counterfeit and eaton.com/replacement circuit breakers. One of the tools that we've developed at Eaton to mitigate the gray market and counterfeiting is called Eaton PowerEdge, and this is a website as well as a mobile app which provides so much information about our products from all of our product lines. But there's a tool in PowerEdge called the Circuit Breaker Authentication tool, and from scanning the barcode on one of these breakers with either a mobile device or with your computer, by keying it in, this tool will give you product information, instruction manuals, time current curves, and it'll allow you to authenticate your product in the field, which is very helpful. And as I'm going around meeting with distributors and contractors, they really enjoy this tool because it helps get quick information and without having to be necessarily at a desktop or in an office, and it allows you to protect yourselves and authenticate your product before installing it. So I encourage everyone on the call to download this. It's available in the Apple Store and the Android Store. It's called PowerEdge, and start to use it. Start scanning your products, start scanning your breakers, and see what information you can find, authenticate your products, and give us feedback about how it's going in the field. Now that you've learned everything that Eaton's doing to mitigate this problem, from labeling and laser marking to our educational websites and tools we've developed to mitigate risks, Eaton's bundled all of this up together into one program called Power of Authenticity. And the purpose of Power of Authenticity is to address these problems caused by the gray market and also promote safe buying habits and minimize downtime and liability. This is a program that I've been launching in the Gulf, and we've had a lot of success with getting distributors up and running and contractors, making sure that everyone's buying and installing authentic circuit breakers and minimizing your liability and protecting yourselves. So to end, we want to leave you with a call to action. Anyone on the call, or even not on the call, is an easy target and can become a suspect to counterfeiting. So whenever possible, we encourage you to buy all of your breakers, all of your products from an authorized reseller or manufacturer's rep, and authenticate your product whenever you can using the tools from the manufacturer, such as PowerEdge, or go through a program called Power of Authenticity to help make sure you're sourcing and installing authentic product. And also, if you do happen to run into any suspect products, you be sure to alert the manufacturer so that we can be aware and we can help mitigate the risk. And here's our contact information for Tom and myself. As you begin downloading PowerEdge and using the tool, if you start taking everything you've learned on this call from suspicious packaging and labeling and markings, and you notice anything suspicious, feel free to reach out to us. Reach out to Tom with suspect products. Reach out to myself if you'd like to learn how to get involved with Power of Authenticity and how you can leverage that in your area. And also, you could also always have access to the email address report_fakes@eaton.com to report suspect product or learn more about authentic breakers or authentic products and how to protect yourselves. And now we will take your questions.
All right, great. Thanks, Erica and Tom. This was a really good presentation, and I think it's going to be a useful tool for our audience to just get educated and be able to share it around and hopefully raise awareness of the overall issue. Now, as Erica said, we want to open the floor to questions. If you have already submitted your questions, great, thank you. If you have other questions or anybody else has questions or comments, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A box at the bottom right of your screen, or you can send me a chat message, whatever works best for you. So I'm just going to dig in. So the first question is, why would a contractor use a reconditioned MCCB?
No, that's a great question, Tim. Thanks for asking that. And again, when we're talking about counterfeit and gray market, you know, we're talking about a certain space, like a type of product, and occasionally we see the reconditioned multi-case breaker, but in our opinion, really a reconditioned breaker should only be used, if a new replacement is not available to be installed, and that would most likely, be the case if you had some type of unplanned outage, an emergency shutdown, and a new, probably a legacy or maybe even obsolete breaker might not be immediately available. That might be your only alternative until a suitable new replacement can be found.
Okay, great. Next question. Why is the gray market the source of counterfeit and suspect products?
That's a good question. In our experience and with the research of other organizations like NAAD, that shows that the sourcing and supply practices of these companies without the formal relationship with the original manufacturer introduces the risk of purchasing and supplying suspect and counterfeit products in the market. Without that manufacturer's relationship, there's no telling how or where they're sourcing products from and to what condition.
That actually leads to another question that came in on the source. One audience member had concerns about, I guess obviously the first questions you guys have when a counterfeit is reported is where they got it from. What if they don't know where they got it from? All they know is they have this breaker, it seems to be a counterfeit. What information would you guys then look for, and what would you advise them to do on that scenario?
Any data point, regarding a counterfeit product is important, and I speak for other manufacturers as well. I think we want to hear about those data points. It has to start someplace, and even if you don't have a lot of detail of that material, still reaching out to that original manufacturer. We have reportfakes@eaton.com, or even reaching out to Erica or myself directly is important. And again, we don't need to be punitive with the person reporting it. I think that's what a lot of people are concerned with, getting involved. But I think it's more important that we have those data points, that we do the research as a manufacturer and try to identify the source and take actions to prevent that from happening in the future.
Great. Next question. How do I know if my reseller is authorized, and how do I find one that is?
If you refer back to the websites in our presentation, those would be the best place to find an authorized Eaton distributor, or go to the original manufacturer's website, and oftentimes there's a locator that you can use to find a nearby authorized distributor for authentic product.
All right, great. Next question. For contractors, what's the biggest reason to be concerned about counterfeits?
The biggest reason would be, especially with a circuit breaker, is the liability and the risk that you take on as a contractor. You know, we typically see, you know, the failures in the field, and of course they get related back to the original manufacturer, the nameplate that, you know, that's on the product that's installed. But the manufacturers typically look for a way to find where that product came from and who was the one that sourced it. So it's your livelihood, it's your reputation, it's the safety of the personnel that are at the facility who've installed the breaker, and even the potential risk to cause harm to the facility that's installed in. So I think the biggest risk is to your reputation, the liabilities that you take on when these suspect products fail.
Great. Tom, I think it was you that brought up the laser etching that Eaton is newly implementing on the circuit breakers. This person wants to know if that laser etching can be faked.
I think everything can be faked to certain degrees. We've actually seen, believe it or not, somebody that has used a laser marker to unlaser a breaker, basically used a laser marker to remove the date codes and serial numbers that we're seeing applied to the breaker. So that's where the gray market position's at. But, you know, a counterfeit will certainly attempt to mimic, you know, the laser marking. But that's where the authentication tool comes in. The idea behind the laser marking is that it permanently applies the serialization information that you need to authenticate using the digital tools that we're making available on your smartphone or on your desktop computers.
All right. This next one I think is a little bit related. I think contractors always want to know, you know, the simplest and most dependable thing to look for. We get that question a lot here at the magazine. So this question's, is there a single thing they can look for that can't be faked? And if not, can you recommend some of the most important things to look for? I know that's kind of, you guys hit a lot of them in your presentation, but I guess maybe could you give a couple of the most important ones that you would recommend looking for?
Yeah, so you're hitting on it, you know, the key things here. So we tried to show you things to look for, and is there a most important one? Not really. You have to take them all together. And then we only looked at like a small subset of products. So then as you start looking at a larger basket of goods, you have to consider the nuances of each of those products. So for me, the key one is using the authentication tool for those breakers, those that have it available, you know, 10 to 400 amps. Use the tool, use the serial number that's on there, and authenticate the breaker. Even just scanning the barcode and having it validated as a breaker that's been found or originally manufactured by Eaton is a good first step. You know, but the other thing, and we mentioned it a couple times, but maybe not forcefully enough, is, you know, really always, you know, refer to your authorized reseller when you're looking to purchase, especially replacement products, and that's regardless of what the manufacturer is. I think that's probably our key thing. Always buy from the authorized reseller.
On reselling, this question came in that's, I guess, on that topic. Can an electrical contractor be a reseller of his overflow stock of breakers, and can an electrical contractor qualify as a reseller?
I would have to look at our commercial policies. I think both of those could be accurate. I'm not sure if a contractor in effect might be a reseller because they're selling it to some end customer. And maybe you're hitting on what we're talking about is a chain of commerce, and this is another part and this goes back to some of the NAED work, being able to follow that chain of commerce is important too for kind of vetting out if it's a suspect product. So if you know the original distributor that the product was purchased from, and you're the owner of it, and you sell that onto another party, you've maintained that chain of custody and allow somebody to authenticate or at least verify that it didn't come from some unknown or suspect source. So, in effect, maintaining that chain of custody or that chain of commerce is helpful. But to answer your question directly, I don't know if we would refer to a contractor as a distributor. That would probably not be a likely scenario.
All right, great. How do I know a circuit breaker that was modified with a shut trip is authentic?
Again, the same tools are available, the serial number. Now, I think when you get into adding a shunt trip, was it a factory modification or was it added in the field? That might have more to do with affecting the UL, certification that's on the product. Many of our products, many of our breakers, even 400 amp breakers, are designed to be field modified with shunt trips. I think the main concern is if you have a breaker that has a factory seal or has been factory sealed, and you have to break a seal in order to add the accessory. So that would be the main cause of concern. But now, local manufacturing, we do have a number of satellite facilities around the country that can do some of those modifications locally under the guidelines of UL and reapply those factory seals. So again, two scenarios. One case, you have to break a factory seal. You have to be concerned, but still a genuine product. The other case, many of our breakers are designed to have field installed accessories.
All right. This next one's on expiration. It's a pretty interesting topic. I think I might want to add to it. But the question is, do breakers have an expiration date? Meaning, if we see a breaker with an old date, is it safe to use? I also want to add to this, do they have expiration dates off the shelf? And can you speak to potential life of the product and service?
All right, great question. And just to be clear, I work with a lot of different industry groups, and Pearl was mentioned, one of them. So folks that work in that reconditioned space, and we tend to try to debate the expiration date of a product. But as everybody knows, multi-case circuit breakers are durable. I've seen many cases where facilities have been decommissioned and the product removed and resold in the open market. Is there an expiration date? That would probably more so to do with has that breaker interrupted faults or seen any conditions that caused a mechanical or electrical wear within the product to cause its end of life. But if you say this, does it expire after 2 years? Probably not. But on the other hand, so like with the authentication tool, you might be able to authenticate a breaker up to 5 years ago, but it's really not designed to go into a facility that's has 20-year-old products and try to say it's genuine or not. It can't tell us the condition of those products, and you have to take into account natural disasters, different things that might have caused products from a certain time frame or time period to be questionable. So if you can't directly verify the life of that product or where it's been, it should be considered a suspect product unless it's being represented as reconditioned. Then you have some understanding of what state that product is in. But if it's an aged number, you can use your own judgment on that. You should question if you should consider it to be new or not. That said, I guess that if it's not been in service, these products do have lubricants inside that can dry out, that can gather dust or affect the performance. Certainly oxidation and other atmospheric conditions could affect a product that it's not used, or who knows how the product was stored. So again, if it's an older product, you certainly should question if it's the right product for you.
Great. You brought up environmental conditions, and you even said natural disasters, and with Hurricane Florence hitting the southeast this past week, I guess it's on everybody's mind, but this next question is, has Eaton seen circuit breakers returned for evaluation that they examined revealed they were contaminated by flood or storms?
Most of the returns for, if you're saying for performance, has it been affected by performance, flood, or storms? Not that I'm aware of.
This next one's more about distribution, but will the Rockwell branded Eaton circuit breaker still be available through the Rockwell channel?
I think that's a commercial decision that I'm not sure how it's being addressed today. I don't want to, for this discussion, I would rather not talk about that relationship yet.
Okay. That's all the questions I have so far. Oh, one just popped in. Let's see here. Do you have literature available on counterfeits to hand out to affiliate members? I know Erica spoke about the websites, but I'm guessing, do you have any printed material? Do you have PDFs on those websites you can download and then people could print off themselves and distribute? Do you have anything of that manner?
Yeah, on our replacement circuit breaker, eaton.com/replacement circuit breakers, you can find videos on that website. You can find PDFs to talk to the risks of the gray market, to talk about the counterfeiting issue with some of the statistics that I went over today. So there are PDFs that you can print out and distribute.
Great. We do have a few more minutes, so if anybody else has any last minute questions, go ahead and send those over. We'll stick on the line for a few seconds to see if anything comes through, but I do want to say, Tom, Erica, this is a really good presentation. Like I said, I think it's going to be a good resource. The recording, we will have a recording available, so anybody who has attended, if you think you know someone who would find it interesting, please feel free to share it. Just spread the word, raise awareness. We're trying to, as Tom said earlier, the contractors are liable, so we're trying to help you out, as well as manufacturers who are also victims of counterfeiting. So we did get one more question. This one is, in California, the combination meter socket load centers are installed on the outside of the buildings. These circuit breakers are exposed to heat and sand. Have these effects been studied for reliability?
I would have to maybe refer that to our residential wiring division, for that kind of response. The breakers, I would expect they would be in some type of 3R enclosure, but I guess that wouldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be any kind of dust or any other exposure to dirt. So, certainly a place for concern, but I don't know I wouldn't have an answer for that. I apologize.
No worries. This one just popped in as well. Is there a location that you're aware of that you're finding a high volume of counterfeit breakers? I know you spoke earlier that a lot of them do come from China. Is there a location within the United States where you happen to see a higher concentration of counterfeits? I think that would actually be really good for people to know if they are in those areas.
Yeah, so we do have the Chinese counterfeits, and I think our government does a great job of trying to, prevent those entries. But a lot of the counterfeiting that we experience in the U.S. is the reconditioning with questionable parts or modifications and then relabeling. And those tend to be where the larger number of resellers are. So I would say, California for sure, definitely Southern California, North Central California, Texas is a big area, but frankly, with the internet, I find a lot of counterfeits on eBay, and I serve Vero notices to a lot of different resellers to take down the counterfeit breakers that they've put onto eBay. I reach out to the folks that I do know that might be remarketing products and advise them that they have these counterfeits on eBay. So, the internet has made the world a lot smaller. The other thing I think is, regardless of where you're at, you may not be receiving products from your local reseller. If the person that's local doesn't have it, he's going to buy it from someplace else and likely or potentially blind ship it. So you might be buying from somebody in Dallas. The product you might be receiving might be coming from Los Angeles or from Las Vegas or from Indiana. So again, you really don't know where those products are coming from. If it's not the manufacturer's authorized representatives, you really don't have any idea where they're sourcing those products from.
Certainly, yeah. All right, well, I think that's a good place to wrap up. So, Tom, Erica, I really want to thank you for your time and expertise. I think this is great. I want to reiterate that there will be a recording available to everyone shortly, and be on the lookout for that, and I'll notify you all by email if you've registered, which you have if you're here. So be on the lookout for that, and I'm going to go ahead and end the event now, and I hope to see everyone in a future webinar.